Right there. Hello again. It's been a long time since I've updated this channel. I didn't get sick, none of my family got sick, thank God. I just got busy. You know, life gets in the way, and when you've got a family to take care of and things to do around the house, a guitar starts to look less and less important, even though it's very beautiful. So, the last time we took a look at this Cort CR250 in dark blue burst, we'd done some hardware upgrades to it, and I told you that the next thing we would do would be to look at some electronics upgrades. So in this video we're going to look at the solderless harness, wiring harness that's in here, along with the Seymour Duncan Black Winter pickups. And I'm also going to talk about some lessons that I learned the hard way with this modification process. In this video, the audio is not exactly something I'm proud of. I was recording it even later at night with a headset microphone, so if it doesn't sound like what you usually hear in these videos, I apologize.
So for the wiring harness, I decided to go with Mad Hatter Guitar Products. Just so you know, this is not a sponsored video. I'm not even close to having sponsors. The cool thing about Mad Hatter Guitar Products, as I'm showing the capacitors and everything right here, is that it's completely, entirely solderless. Some solderless systems say that it's solderless, but you still have to solder some joints in or whatever. Not this. This is completely solderless. Doesn't mean it comes, or rather, it doesn't mean it doesn't come with its own set of challenges, especially with this three-way toggle I'm showing you right now. We'll get to that in a little bit. But they were kind enough to include some wiring diagrams and some really, really helpful instructions. So that's what we got here. Taking apart the control panel and the toggle switch panel, I decided I'm not going to use any of these controls whatsoever, so I was not delicate in cutting it all out, threw it all away, with the exception of the pickups. I'll be using pickups in a different build. Now that I'm rewatching this, you can really see in some of these shots how beautiful the flame is on this maple veneer. Absolutely gorgeous. With this three-way toggle switch, I found out I was way in over my head. The wiring is too thick to fit through the cavity or the routing holes inside, so I tried to expand them myself, as you're seeing right here. And, oh god, just looking at it, I'm cringing so hard. I didn't really succeed in expanding the routing hole, but what I did do was completely ruin the finish right above the bridge pickup. Oh boy, so I just did what I could, and I knew I had to take it to a professional. So a few days later, they got it done. Now look how beautiful it is. And now the wiring for the toggle switch and both pickups can safely make it through to the control cavity. I'm going to go ahead and skip through a lot of this, but just know that I chose the single volume, single tone option, and that, while saving me money, is going to come back and bite me in the ass. So where this wiring harness gets pretty difficult is in the fact that the pickups do not connect to the pots themselves, but rather they connect to a kind of port that is attached to the three-way toggle switch, and it is from that port that you connect to the pots. So in other words, you're jamming all of the pickup leads into this port. And it's one thing if it's just, you know, normal humbuckers, no problem. But if you're doing it with push-pull coil splitting functions, oh man, I'm just saying I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. This was really, really difficult. Less scary than using a soldering gun, that's for sure. But goodness, it took me hours to try and figure this out, and I had to use a couple of different tools in order to make it work. But hey, we finally did. And at long last, the pickups are installed. Now let's take a look at what we've got. But the question is, how does it sound? Well, let's get to some tones.
Now, listening back to some of those recordings, you might be forgiven for thinking that these pickups are not an upgrade at all. They might sound a little mushy, a little woofy in the mid-range. I think the Cort pickups make things sound pretty open, whereas the magnets, the ceramic magnets, and the way that it's wound, these Seymour Duncans or really, really fat in the mid-range. But what I want to try and get across to you is the fact that in the mix, these sound really good for the applications that I use them for. So let's listen to a quick clip. I am not a mixing or an audio engineer by any stretch of the imagination, but you can kind of get what I'm aiming for here. For me and the applications that I plan on using it in the future for, I thought that this pickup setup sounded really, really good. I find that it's better to have a bunch of frequencies that you can subtract from in the mix than have to try and boost frequencies that you're not getting from the guitar. Yeah, for a sort of black metal application, which is what I normally use it for, yeah, Seymour Duncan Black Winners, phenomenal. Some astute observers might have also noticed that I darkened the fretboard. When I got it, it was kind of a weird orangey hue that I didn't think sat well at all, so using some steel wool and this black fountain pen ink that my wife had laying around, I went ahead and darkened it to make it look more like a kind of rosewood finish. You can still see some of the grain in the fretboard, which is great, beautiful. So that was really easy, and I really liked the way that it turned out. Now, the question that maybe some of you are wondering about, was it all worth it? All the upgrades and all the additions, all the modifications, was it worth it in the end? I'm gonna say yes, with an asterisk. Remember that I got these locking tuners for the price of non-locking. Even the non-locking tuners, though, pretty expensive. Could I have gotten away with just a set of high-quality Grovers or hip shot or something of the like? Probably. I don't know if the performance of these tuners really justify the cost, but what I will tell you is that they're very high-performing tuners. They really do hold my guitar in tune very well. I don't have any regrets there. I'll tell you where I do have some regrets. First is with the Tune-O-Matic bridge. If you remember, I had this Graphtec Resimax bridge. I found that I got so much string noise or fret buzz from that bridge for whatever reason. I switched it out for, just a good old-fashioned Godot Tune-O-Matic bridge, and most of it went away. The rest of it, well, was based on the fact that I used to have a string butler right here. And something about the way the string butler worked on my guitar is that it changed the amount of string tension on the top of the guitar, near the headstock, right above the nut. And when you combine these two, it just made the guitar unusable. There was so much fret buzz. The luthier said that the frets were okay. There's really no reason for it to be buzzing that way. You'd take those two out of the equation and revert it back to kind of what it was like before, and it played fine. So verdict, yeah, I wasted $150 something on these two. I understand now why Graphtec doesn't make this version anymore. Maybe for some folks this might work well, but for me it ended up being completely not worth it. Now, were the pickups worth it? Yes, unquestionably. That really mean, gritty metal sound, that's what these do. I absolutely loved them. The solderless wiring kit, yeah, it was a pain in the ass, but I can say I did that, right? I can say at the end of the day, I love playing this guitar. I love looking at this guitar. I love the way it sounds. I love the way it feels now that I don't have dumb stuff above the nut and at the bridge. For me, and that's all I can say, for me it was worth it. I would definitely recommend getting a Goto bridge, because they're solid, they're dependable, and I've had them on a couple of guitars and they always work, unlike the Graphtec. I really, really like the way that this guitar turned out. And I'm privileged to be able to say, yes, this was worth it, because it's the guitar I just can't put down. That concludes the saga of the Cort CR250 in Dark Blue Burst. Now, school starting up again, I am a teacher, so I might not be able to update this channel very often. With digital learning or virtual learning, I have to use my equipment, etc. for my job now, more so than a hobby. I will say, though, that a couple months ago I did buy this guitar. And I did buy some user-friendly upgrades for it that maybe we'll do a video on. Who knows? Until we see you again, wear a mask.